everybody. Welcome to Sonic Talk, episode 565, recorded today, Wednesday, the 16th of January. This is the run-up to NAMM. Next week, there will be no show. In fact, the week after, there will be no show because we'll be in Los Angeles at the NAMM show, bringing you more videos than you probably have time in your life to watch. But the team are geared up and ready. We've got all our technology sorted. What is this, you ask yourself? Well, this is the music technology podcast, where this is called Sonic Talk, and we cover things like synthesizers, recording, production, live shows, studio work, software, all the things that sort of surround the technology of making music in this modern age. So please stay tuned. We will, in fact, also have a prize available for iZotope. iZotope are giving away a copy of RX7, which is their fantastic suite of audio restoration and fixing tools. Some of the stuff you can do with that is amazing. So if you stick around, you'll get details on how to win that. And if you did enter last week's competition, you will stick around and you'll find out if you won. How about that? It happens about halfway through the show. So let's take a warm welcome from our guests. Let's see. Let's start with Mr. Marc Tinley. He's over there, Sonus Magus. Marc Tinley is proprietor at present. His present occupation is proprietor of a fantastic and unusual music shop in Glastonbury in the UK. But previous to that, he's done all sorts of other fantastic things in the industry, including studio work, world tours, all that stuff. How are you, Marc?
I'm all right, thank you very much. It's a bit rainy in Glastonbury, and I don't think anybody's come out to play, so I thought I would come home and do this instead, but it's been quite a long time, so I thought...
Yeah, well, no, lovely to...
So happy Christmas, because I missed saying that to everybody. Happy New Year. Sorry.
Yeah, you're a bit behind. How was your Christmas? How was business in the store? What was selling like hotcakes?
It was all right. It wasn't as good as I've worked out now what the pattern in Glastonbury is. So I think the best months are August and October. So it wasn't as good as August or October. What was selling like hotcakes? Ukulele's still selling like hotcakes. It's still an instrument I don't really quite understand. But lots of people seem to like them. And then I've sold out of all the weird things that I make. People kept coming in. Lots of people come in and they say, I've watched you on the Sonicstate podcast. And I had 2 in on one day, actually.
Wow.
Just after Christmas. So I introduced them to each other. That was quite interesting. But they all come to buy the weird things that I circuit bend and make. And obviously I can't make enough of those and run a shop at the same time. So I'm going to have to come up with a new strategy, I think. Maybe an employee or something.
So you're sold out of interesting stuff that you make.
Circuit stuff.
Wow,
so,
cool.
well, there's 2 strategies. One of them is to get an employee in the shop so I can sit upstairs burning my fingers with a soldering iron. Or the other one is to invite people who make weird circuit bent things and want to sell them to contact me, and I'll sell them for them in the shop.
Well,
maybe I could become a Sonicstate. What are they called? Viewer. Who makes
distributor.
Distributor. That's what I'm looking for, the word. Yeah, exactly.
If I may say, I know that in the modular synth world, there are lots of people who make sort of small runs and one-offs and things. And for a distributor, it's an absolute nightmare because you go, I could sell 5 of those. And they kind of go, well, I haven't finished yet. I've decided to change it. So it's very, you get this. So it will be quite a chaotic sort of, which you might appreciate and enjoy that. So I think...
I've got piles and piles and piles of I haven't finished yet in my because things happen. You get halfway through making something. So I was making this thing with a 555 timer the other day, and I put it down on a drum in the shop, and someone came in and there was just this big coil of cables and or wires and stuff and a little battery, and they went, "Oh, what's that?" And I said, "Oh, it's just a 555 timer little synth thing." And I clipped the battery on, and because it was resting on the drum, when I picked the speaker up off the drum, it went wow, wow, like a Jaws harp. So now I've invented accidentally this new instrument, which is a small speaker connected to a 555 timer that you push onto the skin of a drum and then modulate with your hand. And it sounds a bit like a didgeridoo or a Jaws harp. And then you can tune it. And I'm thinking, I need to house that somehow so I can sell that as an item that people can use on top of drums at the same time as finishing the other thing. So now I've got to try and figure out 2 lots of casing or packaging.
Isn't it always the way? Well, Marc, thank you very much for joining us. Sonus Magus, we better introduce our other guests as well. Let's see who we have for a little while. I don't think we've had Mr. Dominic Hawken for a while, who's, I must say, you're looking very HD today.
Oh,
I can see
fabulous.
all the details. Every single detail. I can almost see what your document is called on your computer behind you, but I wouldn't pretend that it's quite that good.
Well, that's pretty stunning because I've got a Logitech webcam that costs £80 and no microphone. So if anyone wants to look like this, it's one of the
is it
920 or something? 910 or 920.
We used to use those. They're quite good actually.
And
with the right
that's
light.
all. That's all. And that Logitech software that you just click the "Make Me Look Good" filter, and there you go. Happy New Year, happy Christmas to everyone. Same as Marc. All I've been doing is relaxation music for the app that I was talking about previously, which is a kind of sleep app for kids and adults. So the code's finished. Now I just have to populate it. Well, perhaps you could tell it. I just have to finish it. That's all.
Brilliant.
So does that mean all your envelopes are set to maximum release on everything in your studio?
It's all very slow. I tell you, the techie challenge was to fit hours and hours and hours of music into an app, because if you think about it, music takes, even that MP3 takes a lot of time. So it's all been about that. But no, really good. I've got about 20 tracks in there, about 30 to go, and then I'll get it out. So it'll be February, March for at least a beta release. So in a couple of months, I'll be saying I'm looking for beta testers. So anyone watching the Sonic Talk can get involved and get a free copy in return for a little bit.
But how will anybody make notes if they're relaxed? They'll be so relaxed that they won't
this is
notice
the trouble.
that anything's happened.
This is why it's taken so long to finish the code, because I keep falling asleep.
Excellent. I tested it. Yeah, I feel very relaxed now. But what was it I was doing? Yeah. Brilliant.
I'll test it for you.
Dominic, thank you. Yeah, no, Marc has a lot of people who might be interested in that sort of thing on tap in Glastonbury. So I think
definitely, yeah.
Right, and we also have Mr. Matthew Hodson, who we haven't seen for a little while. Matt, of course, educator and producer and a modular specialist down there in Brighton, where he runs one of the BIMS courses and is kind of in charge of lots of things down there. How are you, Matt? You good?
I'm all right, and Happy New Year again to everyone. I'm not too bad, thank you. Hanging in there. I've kind of just been burying my head out of the way of everything over Christmas, really, just trying to take some time out and just plow on with my own stuff, really. So I've been doing a lot of that. I think I mentioned last time I was on the show, I was working on my releases and a release schedule and all that kind of thing, which just takes up a lot of time. So not so much music, a lot of admin based stuff, really. So sorting out live gigs, some of them abroad, that kind of thing, release schedule, all the kind of PR stuff, really. Bit of re-racking modules recently. I'm trying to get everything into a single 7U case here just for the new EP, and then I can take it out, play live, basically, paired up with the Pioneer SP16. Just bought myself one of these, bit behind the curve, got myself a key step.
God, Matthew's got a keyboard. What?
Just got one. Yeah, he's got keys and everything.
You've sold
really
out, Matt.
They're really cool.
Are. Yeah, they are.
Really enjoy working with it. It's been great, actually.
Excellent. Well, that sounds great. We've talked about this before, but we should definitely get you on for a rebroadcasting one of your live performances restreamed, because I'm sure the Sonic audience would be massively interested in that. So
more than happy to do that. That'd be great. Thanks.
Excellent. Right. Well, I suppose we ought to get on, because there is actually news this week, and the bulk of it seems to be coming from Korg. So let's start with a bit of Korgness. This is the new Minilogue XD, which is essentially the Minilogue, but it's got 16 buttons for the sequencer. It's got stereo digital effects, which is sort of like Prologue sort of vibe. It's also got that digital effects oscillator, DSP, so you can program and load your own digital oscillators like they do for the Prologue, which is a really smart idea, I think. And to be honest, this feels a lot more like a good idea in the Minilogue format than it did perhaps in the Prologue format, which, as you know, I felt like it was quite expensive. Whereas this, similar price to the original, you still get 4 voices of analog, and it's a great instrument even without that new stuff. So that's the first new thing from Korg. Anybody use a Minilogue? I mean, I think they're great. So I mean, I use one whenever I'm kind of getting it together for that stuff. But it was, remember, it was like the first affordable poly, analog poly for quite some time, I think. Matt, is that something that you've tinkered with, or is it not?
I've tinkered with in the local music shop here in Brighton, and I absolutely love it. I thought it was really the thing that got me was the interface and how performative it is, and all the dials and the access to the things on it. I don't own one, unfortunately, but I was sat looking at this update with the XD, and I was just thinking, this is probably the kind of thing that I would go to based on not only the specs but also the size, portability, playing live with it, and of course you've got CV on this as well, which is going to allow me to integrate with this bot really easily. I think it's really great. I think Korg have, year after year after year, we see new synths come out and things like this. But I think Korg have just hitting it on the head here in terms of size, functionality, performance. You don't have to do a ton of menu diving, unlike some of maybe the DSi stuff, which I love, but
it's much more complex,
much more complex, and this is much more hands-on, a lot more fun, a lot more interactive. And the effects on it as well are really cool. Anything that's got built-in effects on it immediately gets me vibing with that instrument straight away. Sticking some reverbs and delays on things, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's the extent of it, really. I kind of want to go back to the shop later on and have a play today.
565 it's going to be. Dominic, have you messed around with one of those? If you haven't, I recommend you should. They're great little instruments.
Absolutely. It looks brilliant. Stereo output. I think the other ones were mono.
Yeah.
And it's the wave sequencing thing that I like on those kind of things as well. So yeah, really good. Really, I think it's a good price, good package. It looks pretty much, as Matt said, like really performant, and it sounds great on that demo. But I haven't played one yet, so I can't give an absolute definitive go on it. But absolutely on my list of things to check out, and it feels like a really, really good product.
And Mark, if you're struggling for space in the shop, it's the perfect thing to sell, really, along with the other items that are coming along from Korg. It's quite small.
Well, I'm going to have to get a Korg dealership, but I don't know. It's not very innovative, is it? I'm still calling out to synth manufacturers to make something really innovative.
Well, I've
just looked in the dictionary.
Yeah.
It says in the dictionary, a computerized instrument for generating sounds, often beyond the range of conventional instruments used in making electronic music. But that style of synthesizer has definitely gone well into the realm of being a conventional instrument. So I want somebody to bring out something entirely different, and I'm still waiting for that to happen.
Well,
we're noodling around trying to make flutes out of things, and
maybe. I wouldn't agree with that. I mean, I think the fact that you've got the ability to write your own oscillators and your own kind of code to come up with other things is innovative within the realms. We've talked about this before. I don't think we can handle.
Within the context of that style of synthesis, it is. But maybe somebody needs to invent a new signal path. It's almost like. The analogy would be the guitarist that puts the same effects pedals in the same order down on the board every single time and then expects it to sound different. They need to put all the bits in a different order, or take some of those bits out and put other bits in, and then see what happens. And it might make a more unconventional noise. It flabbergasts me that we just go round and round and round the same set of sounds. We've been doing it for what? God knows, 70 years or something, haven't we? So if you go into nature, there's loads of sounds available that are just like, whoa, what the hell's that noise? I spend my whole life going around going, whoa, what the hell's that noise? And if I could have a box that made the noise I just heard in the background of, a tree splitting open with
like a sampler.
Yeah, maybe that's a sampler.
No, but a sampler doesn't have enough control over the dynamics and the movement of that sound. That's the joy of a synthesizer. You can adjust all sorts of parameters within the time frame and the depths and the dynamics of that sound. So something that does that but makes new noises. Can I have that, please?
I'll be right on it, sir.
I'm sure it's. I think the Korg offering looks like it's very professional, and I'm sure it's very lovely. But I want something different. So,
maybe there will be something. Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, I know. I was just going to say, I was right on it with the SDK that you can do for this. You know, writing your own oscillators, writing your own effects if you want to get into that world. And I think that's encouraging to see. I think that's a really good step in the right direction in terms of not only building a community about, you know, you don't have to get in super low level programming. You can share code between people and load that up onto this. And I suppose what they've done as well here, Korg, they've really differentiated this from, I think, what we're going to talk about in a minute, which is the Volca range, particularly the new ones, which might be more what Mark's thinking about in terms of, you know, the new modular Volca is perhaps the one for where you can really interact that signal path and come up with some really wacky stuff, I think.
Well, maybe, just maybe, we should pop that in there now. I'm trying to remember if this is going to be the. This is Volca Drum first, but which is actually this is from Cuckoo's January, which he's doing a jam every day. This is the Volca Drum. He's yet another person who got some Korg stuff, like the rest of the world, apart from us, before it came out. But this sounds kind of interesting. It's got an interesting sort of resonator and I think it's a spatial resonator and lots of different 6 voices, electronic percussion instrument. And this actually sounds kind of interesting. That's one thing. So this one's was announced this week as well. And also we have the brand new Volca modular, which is a bizarre concept because obviously it's very small, but it's still modular. It's got those kind of tiny sizer, those little tiny wire and patch points, 50 patch points, very West Coast sort of vibe with a complex oscillator, 2 function generators, and I think there's a reverb, spatial effects, and 2 low pass gates and a sequencer. So this is kind of interesting, very unique. It's going to be about a couple $100. And obviously you can play it by the lakeside and scare the birds or whatever it is that you might want to do. But it's got CV I/O as well, no MIDI, but you know, that's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, that came out as well.
3 volts. I think the CV on it's 3 volts. So I'm not sure if it's completely compatible with Eurorack.
That would make sense. That would make sense.
But it's still cool. It's still usable. But I mean, look at this thing for a couple of £100, 50 patch points on it. The things you can do in terms of interrupting the sequencing on it. Those low pass gates sound pretty good to me, and the effects on it as well. I mean, this is a no-brainer. This is something to stick in your bag and have on the train and play around with and come up with some funky stuff. And I like the fact that they've gone West Coast on this, haven't they, as well?
Yeah, very much so.
That actual sort of approach to it all. Happy days with this one. Great stuff. Let's just hope that this is the start of a new kind of conversation Volca's Korg sort of having in terms of that affordable approach to modular. And just think about how much it's going to allow people to access modular on a, you know, in an affordable way,
on a casual basis,
hardware, on a casual basis, yeah. You know,
is there such a thing as accessing modular on a casual basis? I think once you got one, then you're screwed for life, aren't you? Really?
Well, there's VCV rack, I suppose. You know, you've got the software side, but this is, you know, other than the OCOS, but I mean, you're still talking more money for the OCOS. This is certainly casual.
Yeah, casual level
in it.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know, Dom. Have you got any Volcas? Because they just seem to keep coming.
I keep wanting to buy them. I mean, I love this direction that it's all going in. I mean, brief just on that Minilogue, the idea of programming your own stuff. No one wants to get that deep into it in general, but that is definitely a way of the future. Making something that's really a scratch pad of code, high-level programming language like Max for Live kind of stuff. You know. That's great because you can really do your own stuff. Things like Falcon, the plugin allows that, but no one's really using it. It needs to have a nice graphical way of producing stuff to get in there. But yeah, this Volca, I mean, like you say, $200 for this brilliant thing with lots of jacks in that you can really do just crazy stuff in, just as a learning thing, as an entry level type of thing on the one hand, to get yourself understanding how synthesis works and how you can corrupt stuff by plugging the wrong inputs into the wrong outputs and stuff. it's just brilliant. And I've always looked at the Volcas and thought maybe if I took them out of their case and stuck them in a modular style rack, because a lot of those Korg stuff, they had obvious sort of patch points inside on the circuit boards that were labeled, and people, were fitting MIDI, MIDI retrofits onto them and all sorts of stuff. So if you're into that circuit bending hacky kind of stuff, it's all there. And I think they're great. I think if they had, if these were packaging them more expensive in sort of metal cases, making them look a little bit more pro level, the sounds in there are great. No one would notice effectively. So
I'm just looking to see if it is, like you said, Matt, to see whether it says anything about the CV handling, but it doesn't say specifically that there's any.
It's really trivial to whack it up. I mean, if you have got modular, if you're thinking to plug it into modular, you only need to put it through a VCA to up the level to something decent, right?
Or down, yeah, whichever. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Mark, more your bag? These are even smaller. You could get loads of these in your shop.
I could get loads of those in my shop, yeah. Even in my small shop that I've got now. So when I moved to the bigger shop, I could get hundreds of them I could have them stacked by the door, couldn't I? So having been really, really rude about Korg just a moment ago and saying that they're not innovative and their stuff is a bit rubbish, I absolutely love these. And I've been looking for something that makes that drum sound for some considerable time that I can just hold in my hands and have as a box. So the drum one I really, really like. And the modular looks fun as well, doesn't it? So, yeah. Did I shoot myself in the foot in the last round, do you think?
Yeah, there's no such thing as that. And that we're not going to hold it against you.
I mean, I guess they're marketing them to completely different audiences, aren't they? So maybe I'm in the I like small boxes that do weird things audience.
It's really interesting because you're right there, Mark. It's really interesting because we see the comments to these all the time. You get a kind of sense of where people are, and it splits. A lot of people going, "Oh, I'm sick of these kind of toy-like things." And then some people but then the other half of the people say, "Oh, this is great. It's really accessible. I really like it." But it must be, as a company, say as a designer, for instance, you might be more interested in creating beautiful flagship kind of super compatible, super powerful instruments that do all sorts of stuff. But the market seems to be going in the opposite direction. So I wonder how satisfying it is to actually come up with these sort of things and bring them into the world. Whereas rather than something that's a bit more of a kind of flagship instrument that might be more sort of fun and feel like it has more importance in the world. I don't know. But these are going to be big. These are definitely going to be big.
I was hoping you might get more patch cables with it. With the modular one, it looks like you get something like 15
patch You get 20 patch cables.
20. Okay.
Aren't they just those little Arduino jumpers, though? They're the little direct.
Oh, is that right?
They're only about...
Yeah. You could just buy those by the but what about grounding? If you're moving audio signals around with that, I'm not sure how would that work. Dominic, you might know.
It's probably high voltages or higher voltages going around inside, like modular. They stick modular in wooden cabinets now, but I don't know. They're small, they're tight, and they've probably got big grounding in there. It's not so much like running a live big long jack out the back. I don't think you probably notice it. I mean, they're relatively lo-fi sounding things, but I just love the sound that's coming out of them. They're made to be abused. And like I said before, they are marketed at a lower, cheaper end of the market. But I'm pretty sure if they made a pro-looking one with exactly the same internals, people would go, "Oh, great new synth. That's 400 quid. Thank you very much."
Well, maybe.
But they are really cool. They're small. They're really easy to ship. They've manufactured at huge levels, so they can keep the price point down. And you really can't knock it. I mean, what I would have imagined them doing was to make one and then rebadge it under lots of little things, with a synth engine that becomes a bass synth or an FM synth. But it looks like these things are
they're all discreet
every time. They're all put together. They're all designed with a lot of thought in mind. And brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I think
Korg have always been really good at that.
Yeah,
I said Korg have always been really good at that.
Yeah, well, I think you're right.
Yeah, the drum one that's just come out. So obviously you've already got Volca Beats and you've got Volca Kick and you've got Volca Sample as well. I'm just wondering where this new one sort of sits in there, really. You've got some interesting...
Well, I can tell you, Volca Beats sounds pretty crummy as far as I recall.
Right.
I mean, it's very bibbly bobbly. I mean, you know, it's
Yeah.
not really kind of banging. Volca kick sounds fantastic. Volca sample sounds really good. It's got a great sound to it. So I think you could team those up. I mean, Volca beats not so much. I know I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for that, but it's not the sort of thing that you're likely to base, you know, a lot of your work on. You might use it for the occasional track, whereas the sample and this, I could see you could probably incorporate. I mean, where I see something could really work is you have a sort of master device that just sequences all of them and brings them all together somehow. I mean, I know they tried to do that, you know, there's been this kind of one Volca that unites them all kind of concept, the Volca Mix, the rather ill-fated one, which we had one in for review and we chose not to look at it because it was so flawed in so many ways, or, you know, so we didn't do it. But there's room for something like that. But maybe you would use it with something like a BeatStep Pro, or, you know, something sequency like that. Or, you know, you've got a load of sequences, you could probably just hook them up with MIDI, couldn't you? Just
hook it up with that, yeah. I think my approach to using these kind of things, and not just because they're small or anything, but, you know, I tend to have some sessions where none of this gets turned on at all, and I'm just all about generating interesting loops. It might be percussion loops, might be just particular sounds, textures that I can use in live sets and load into the various samplers that I've got and that kind of thing. So I think these kind of things are really great for that, you know, just sticking it into recording it stereo into your computer, running it through some effects, generate some interesting textures and drum loops and that kind of thing for later use, basically.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, for sketches, because obviously the sequences are limited on these things. They're generally sort of 16 step, but you can change the beat divisions and have lots of so you know, that's the other thing. The sequences are actually quite useful for parameter sequencing and all that sort of stuff.
Having said that, I'd quite like to take a couple of them down and sit outside the local pub and busk.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah, well, that's Gaz's thing with his mini rig and whatnot. So yeah, that definitely works.
That's the thing.
Yeah, come and bust outside my shop. You'd be welcome.
The way you look at these things is, I've always looked at pro sessions or pro studios. Like, am I going to walk into a studio with one of those and get paid to play it, or make a hit? Can I make a hit with something like this? And generally, no, you can't. You can use them to
rubbish
stuff. Generally. Let me finish. Generally, you wouldn't. But of course, you can take the beats and you can use that as a basic drum pattern for a massive hit if you want to. But in your arsenal of session keyboards, you're probably not going to pull out a Volca keys or a Volca beat or whatever to do it. You use it in the basics, and sampling what comes out of that then gets chucked into the computer or whatever, or live is the real legitimate use for these kind of things. So if you're putting together techno tracks or whatever and you just want some crazy drum sounds, exactly, again, as Matt was saying, you want to sample this stuff and just have it on a hard drive somewhere that you can throw around, or live if you want to mess around. And I'd say something like the Deluge is a perfect central
something that a loop station of some kind. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Right, I'm going to just.
Can I just say one last thing?
All right, very quickly.
That is that I noticed that the Volca, the percussion one, does something with slicing and stuff that could be quite unpredictable, and it might not be something that you'd want to sample. You might want to use that when you're running a session because it's got something in it that's like a more random element. And I'm after the random element that thing does. Otherwise, I could just use samples of old Simmons drum kits and get those sounds. But I want that generated kind of slicing and all sorts of weird stuff that they've got in there, and the hands-on with the knobs.
Yeah,
so that's what excited
fair
me
enough. Fair enough. Okay, right. I think it's time to just have a word from our friends at iZotope.
RX continues to be the industry standard and leader in audio repair for music and post-production. And with RX-7, we've introduced groundbreaking new ways to quickly and easily fix and manipulate audio. Take the game-changing Repair Assistant, an intelligent helper that can detect noise, clipping, clicks, hum, and more. Also new in RX-7 is Music Rebalance, a powerful source separation tool. Drums too loud? Vocals not loud enough? Let's fix that. You can also create instrumental versions of songs by removing the vocal elements. You can now alter the pitch without affecting the timing of your audio, and conversely, alter the time without affecting the pitch with the new variable time and variable pitch modules. Using the new dialogue contour, you can improve the performance of a line or even create a new performance by altering the pitch contour of the dialogue, therefore adjusting the intonation of the speaker, and introducing Dialogue Dereverb, a module powered by machine learning to reduce the presence of reverberations around dialogue. RX-7, a new frontier in audio repair.
And of course, you can download, if you go to iZotope.com and search out RX-7, they all have 10-day fully functioning demos, and there's loads of tutorials because there's so much you can do with that stuff. We had a competition from last week, excuse me, and last week's winner for iZotope RX-7 is somebody called Guy on Keys, who's Guido3. They tweeted the hashtag and tar very muchly. So, well, I'm very pleased to hear that. I don't know where you are based, but if you get in touch... Oh, they're in England. Ashby de la Zouche. Now, there's a word to conjure with. Don't hear that one very often. That's actually a real place, folks. So get in touch, please, Guy on Keys, and we will sort you out with RX-7. And, of course, we have a competition this week. We're looking for the hashtag remix from stereo. That's all one word, remix from stereo. And the hashtag RX-7 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. That's the hashtag remix from stereo and the hashtag RX-7 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. And we'll be announcing the winner for that competition. Well, it's going to be in February now, isn't it? I suppose, because I'm back on the 30th. I forget what the date is. We could look it up, I'm sure. But I want to say thank you very much to iZotope for their sponsorship of the show. Right, the next big news is, and see if I've got this right. Yeah, here we go. Now, this is Yamaha's new piano, the new CP. Which on the face of it, you know, you might think, oh yeah, another stage piano, but this is actually quite a big deal. They're really going after like the Nord market, because Nord have totally owned the stage piano market, or certainly had a big chunk of it for ages. And they go for the same sort of vibe where you get the different areas. So you've got three distinct sort of engines. You've got a piano, electric piano, and sub, and then an effects. And each of them has multiple different samples. It's got onboard ROM. You've got great piano sounds. You've got all, that's the idea anyway. It comes in a 73 and an 88. And from what I can hear, it sounds pretty good actually. And it's, you know, Yamaha stuff we know is actually built pretty well. And it does stand the test of time. You know, that's one reason why, you know, some people kind of get a bit like, oh, that's a bit boring. It's not very innovative. But Yamaha make stuff that people trust on the road, you know. So you get lots and lots of people using their workstations and whatnot because they're just reliable, they're built to last, and they sound good. And I think that's probably going to be the case with these guys. So, yeah, obviously a big market. I'll come to you first, Dominic, because I know, you know, you probably, with songwriting stuff that you've done and whatnot, you know, there's probably been a studio piano, if not the real thing, and quite often it would be a Nord or maybe a Roland, but Nord really have taken it. But this looks like an interesting thing. I mean, it's not cheap. I think it's 1,700 and something for the 73 and 2,200 for the 88. So they're expensive, but they look like they're going to be chunky and substantial.
Yeah, I was just. Did they got wooden keys by any chance?
The 88 has wooden keys with graded hammer action.
Right. I mean, because that's the thing. I mean, I love piano. First studio I worked in, I was like to work it was Trident. I don't think it's there anymore in Soho, and they had the piano that Life on Mars for, you know, David Bowie's album Hunky Dory was done on, and a whole bunch of stuff.
Upright, wasn't it?
Just no, it was a grand. So maybe just Hunky Dory then. So maybe they lied. Maybe I've spent my whole life having played that piano and being really.
Oh, maybe not. You could well be right.
But you know, I was classically trained up to grade 8, and I got to a point where wasn't very interesting playing sheet music, and then synths came out just at the right time, so I was kind of had an advantage to get involved in synthesizers, and I do have a real soft spot for a decent piano. So were I a live player of piano, that wooden, the real piano feel is the thing that you're missing. And it really does make a difference. I'm not just being a kind of purist kind of thing here. You can play piano really well on a bunch of stuff, whether they be real pianos, Rhodes, the original Yamaha stuff, DX7s or whatever. But if it's particularly for quiet stuff, for the really kind of intricate quiet piano, that it's all about the keyboard. And you obviously need a fantastic sound in the background, which is going to be multi-sampled and all the rest of it if it's not a real piano. But the keyboard is the thing that's always been lacking for me. So yeah, I think they've pitched it right. It's not for everyone. If you're you know, an amazing piano player doing a lot of sessions or doing a lot of live work, then you just get one. And I can't see any reason why you wouldn't go for the big one at that stage for the keyboard feel, really. And you're right, Yamaha, well renowned. I mean, Yamaha grand pianos and Yamaha uprights, the real thing, are amazingly well renowned, really well built, sound amazing. So it's a niche market, which is why they're expensive. But if the product is good, then there's still a lot of people out there that are playing this stuff.
Yeah, cool. And they have, they actually have these 3 sections. So that's the similarity to the Nord to a degree, because the Nord stage piano has sections as well where you can kind of layer up and you know do whatnot. The other thing is it's got the, well, I'm trying to remember what they call it. It's SSS, which is where you play, you switch presets, and the notes will hang underneath. So for live players, that's great. You know, so
nice.
you can keep your foot on the sustain pedal. The organ or whatever might, and then you're straight in with something else. So they've thought about that quite a lot. I know, Matt, I'm not sure whether what you're going to say about this, because I know you're not a keyboard person, but I mean, there obviously is demand for this kind of stuff, and you know, a decent stage piano, there's always room for it. And like we say, Nord have really kind of run away with it a lot of the time. So Yamaha are stepping in and going, wait a minute, we know what we're doing too.
They have, and I'm familiar with the Nord stuff. Have been a long time Nord user, actually. And I know that their stage stuff is excellent, and you see them absolutely everywhere. So last year, I think, what did we have from Yamaha? We had the montage kind of stuff, and we had
Mode DX.
Mode DX stuff coming out. So obviously they're now focusing back on this kind of stage piano stuff. You know, if you're going to create something like this, it's got to have some very specific things, which is that touch quality. You talked about the wooden keys. It's got to have great sound and versatile sounds. That way that it works with the pedal sounds really interesting as well. Beyond that, it's like I say, I'm not a player, so this it's not something I'm going to splash a couple of grand on, but I can see from what I know about the Nord stuff, the Nord stage stuff, that this is definitely something that it stands proudly with that range of stuff, really. I could probably see this cropping up in quite a few places and players that I do know out there who are using these kind of things. But yeah, not for me. But you do need these sort of things. I'm not going to poo-poo these things. It's not like
you absolutely do need them. Yeah,
you've got it.
Kind of pro stuff.
Absolutely.
They've stuck balanced outputs on it. I think maybe the mistake they did do, which is what Nord really got right, was making it bright red, so you know instantly what it is. I know, Mark. It seems like, Mark, they need to get a bit brave with their product design, the industrial design. Yamaha, it's sort of, their stuff does tend to look a little bit utilitarian and functional, like it could be hosting some kind of experimental or office equipment rather than something massively creative.
I quite like the yellow of the Waldorf stuff. Actually, maybe they could go down that bright orange or something.
The studio electronics.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it? The difference between being a musician and being a music shop owner is that as a musician, I only move in the circles of musicians of similar ability and with similar taste. As a music shop owner, I get everybody coming into the shop and asking me for stuff. And I've become friends with quite a number of very brilliant, classically trained musicians. So there's a woman whose house I went round recently who had a clavier piano in her house.
That's a Yamaha, isn't it? Yeah. Oh no, clavier. Nord,
clavier,
right?
Nord,
yeah.
Nord, yeah. In her house, and she also has a Kurzweil PC88, I think, and she's got some problem where she needed the sound of the clavier to be played by the Kurzweil because the key on one, no, the other way around, the key on one doesn't work. And she wanted to do a concert with the sound from the other one because she thought the clavier sound wasn't really cutting it. And I went round there and I tweaked the sound a lot on the clavier for her and EQ'd it and put reverbs and everything on it. And so she started playing something on it. I said, wow, that sounds really beautiful. And then we've been talking about mixing two classical pieces of music together that are in different keys. And I said, how are you getting on with that thing? And she started playing it to me. And then she said, oh, Mark, hang on, shall I just play it on the real piano? And she's got like a full-size grand in her house. So she walks across the room, sits down at the grand and starts playing it. And the difference between the clavier electric piano or sample piano and the real thing is so extraordinary when you have them that back to back, that I think that's the real test. You have to put one of these things on stage next to a real grand piano and then go, guys, look, we've made this thing and this sounds like this, or it doesn't, because we spend a long time working with these things and somehow convince ourselves that the sampled pianos we've got sound like pianos, and they don't, unless it's really, really good. So the question I need to ask is that thing really, really good or not?
Well, to be fair, the Yamaha sounds generally are pretty good. And what I've heard, because I went to the Mo DX launch and they had a lot of piano playing and other sounds as well. And they did sound great. And they had all this other additional stuff. I should point out that there was the other one, wasn't there? Was the Roland V piano. There was a big launch for that, wasn't there? Which was really expensive, which was completely modelled. And that was really interesting because it was high esoteric technology and it was all purely physically modelled, and you could do things like, make the strings like 6 inches thick or make the piano 20 feet long, that you could do all these kind of weird things, or change the kind of way that the materials on the hammers, all sorts of really interesting things. And it responded. I don't know whether it sounded exactly like a piano, but it had things like you could have sympathetic resonances, and you could dial in sympathetic resonances that would only resonate in the key you were playing
really
in.
Important
that sort of stuff,
Those sympathetic resonances are a really important part of the sound of a piano.
Yeah, I think most big and most sort of high quality piano libraries do have that as a component part. I mean, you have that, the ability, because the whole thing does resonate across all of the notes, and depending on how you use the dampers and whatnot.
I have one young man who comes in I've got a piano a street piano outside my shop that anybody can come in and play. And I've got one young man who comes in and he pulls the front off the piano, and then he plays harmonics on the strings. It's an upright piano, so he plays harmonics on the strings above the sustain and the sostenido pedal with his toes. So he'll play the piano and you hear these beautiful harmonics ringing out, and it's like, how on earth is he doing that? And he's there with his shoes off, with his feet inside the piano playing. So I think Yamaha needs to model that into it, actually.
You need to get him in for a gig. Yeah, what could you call it? You could call it a toe jam or something, couldn't you?
I don't know what you call it.
That's going down as a title. Resonant toe jam.
It's very innovative, and I've never seen anyone do it before, but it sounds amazing.
Right.
Oh, dear.
Only in Glastonbury. But
Indeed.
But brilliant. That sounds great. But yes, it's available. All of these things I think this is available now. So, if it's the sort of thing that, you dig, it's probably, you can go and check it out in the store, which I'm sure you'd want to before you bought something like this. The other things we talked about are going to be coming up, and we'll go and see them at NAMM. I think they'll be available after NAMM. So I think Korg is in fact our first appointment at NAMM. So we'll get as much information as we can on those things as possible.
Is that kid from Korg really called Loop, or did it just sound like that to my old
Luke? He's called Luke. He's called Luke.
I thought he was called Loop. I thought that was far more interesting.
Yeah, maybe he'll change his name. Based on advice. He's a lovely guy. Actually, he's the UK demonstrator. I can't remember his surname, but yeah.
Toe jammer.
Yeah. Toe jammer hammer. Right. Gosh, we're nearly there. There's this as well. I wasn't sure about this, but this is a new Stylophone Gen R-8, which is a very angry and distorted sounding chat. This is it's got loads of CV patch points, which is kind of cool. Touch keyboard, same sort of thing. Twin oscillators, British apparently 2-pole filter, multi-mode. Sounds very grrr. Not sure this is the best audio demo I've heard. But that's coming out as well. I think that's going to be limited availability. That's $300. No, Matt, did you check out what was the other one? There was some other Stylophone stuff which is sort of more analog based. So does this feel like it's a bit late to the party, or do you think there's a market for it?
Yeah, kind of. I knew a bit about this. I was contacted by them about a year and a half ago, and they were asking me some questions about what would you like to see on the new Stylophone, which I thought was which is an odd question. And
my foot.
Yeah, I gave them some feedback and what have you, and then suddenly you've had these new things come out. This one, I wasn't amazingly fussed by the ones that came out last year, I think it was, But this one, and I mean, it's probably the most craziest marketing video I've ever seen. I mean, it's pure filth, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very hot.
Isn't it? You know, the oscillators on this just sound absolutely crackers. And you've got this like really lo-fi delay in there as well, which just sounds great. You've got CV all over the place on it. 19 CV gate patch points, grungy analog style delay with modulation CV on it as well. And then you've got this sub oscillator as well, which just sounds really crazy. It kind of reminds me a little bit of, I know it's not the same thing and it's not in the same price point. What was that thing you reviewed that makes really kind of drony sounds with the touch?
Oh, the Lyra 8.
The Lyra, yeah. You know, I would get a Lyra to make these sort of sounds, these kind of like really sort of dark industrial techno stuff that you would have in the background under a 130 BPM fall to the floor sound going on. So I don't know if this is late to the party. I think it looks fun. I think how much is it? I think it was quite
300
affordable.
quid. It's 300 quid, so it's a bit on the edge, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I get you. You know, it's an extra quid more than the Volca modular, I suppose. But it just sounds really rude and really distorted and really fun with that much CV patch points on it as well. I think I was quite drawn to this, and the video just made me laugh because it was just raucous.
Yeah, I mean, it's a high distortion audio and a quite low res video. Dominic, what do you make? I mean, I can't remember the name of the previous. It was Gen X, wasn't it? The last one.
Yeah, I think so. My friend Connor is all over this. It's just his idea of heaven, this thing. And I think if you like that kind of raw, grunty sound, I'm not really. I don't think it knows what it is, if you see what I mean. Is it a £300 quite expensive thing? Because that strikes me as quite expensive. Stylophones have in general been the lower end of the market. But then if you look at what it's got, I can't believe it always sounds as hot as it does on the demo. Clearly they've really kind of ramped it up. Would I get a Volca instead of this? Yeah, I probably would actually. It's worth a try, but I mean, it's not really a stylophone anymore, is it? It's the stylophone was just that buzzy.
It's got the keyboard. It's just got the keyboard.
It's exactly, and I mean, and I think it's also got the name, which might push them. The branding is quite cool, I suppose.
Is it?
Yeah, it doesn't quite. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Well, it's better than calling it a Dominic or something, isn't it? More people are going to be interested in a stylophone, but. Yeah, I don't quite know what it is. If it was like 99, 120, I don't think there would be an issue with it at all. I think its price point is a little bit out of its league based on what I've heard, I think.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know, Mark. I mean, it sounds like all those patch points and the kind of the groove, the kind of funky, again, small, fit on a number of shelves in the new store, you could imagine.
Yeah, but I won't have any room for it because the whole shop is going to be full of the little Korg things. So,
Yeah.
I mean, let me just say one word: EDP Wasp. Don't you think it's just basically? It reminds me so much. The sound of it reminds me of the Wasp, but the idea that it's got a touch-sensitive keyboard, again, Wasp. The breakouts, the CV breakouts, that's a good idea. I like that. But would I pay £300 for it? No.
No, I think it feels a little bit on the pricey side, but I don't. We don't know. It looks like it might be pretty well built. I think it's a metal case, but I'm not sure, which is always a plus.
Well, maybe if it's a metal case, that would give it some reason to be at that price point. But even so,
yeah, okay, fair dues.
I just think get this thing with one thing in mind, and that is just to make some cracker, really sort of distorted, gnarly sounds from it. I didn't realize it's got a drive. I don't know if that's the drive on the output or if it's going into the filter or what. Probably on the output by the looks of it.
I'm not sure. Which
is a shame, but I don't know too much about it, and I can't quite see from the pictures as well what the patch points allow you to do. But I don't know. I'm just drawn to things like this that kind of will just do one thing and one thing well and be inspiring and fun to use kind of thing. So I'm going to definitely check this one out. It is a shame that it's a little bit more than 200 quid, 300 quid mark. So that's the only thing.
I can't see the detail on there. It's unfortunately they only
No, I
uploaded it in 480, so it's just not quite there, unfortunately. So it's not possible to see. Yes, well, there we go. I don't know. We have got some other topics, but I'm just wondering whether or not it feels quite neat because we've done the pre-NAMM stuff. It feels like maybe this would be a good time to kind of wrap it up, and I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about when we come to the next show as well. So I don't know if that's okay with everybody. Whether we can leave it there. I'm sure everybody's got stuff to do. I know I have, and I will continue to do those. But yeah, so. That's it for this week. Remember, next week and the week after, no show, but we will have lots and lots and lots of NAMM coverage. We've got a full team going over. We've tweaked our workflow. We're hoping that it's going to be even more productive based on those changes. So there's going to be a whole load of stuff. Friday, we've got a Friday fun. We've also got a review with Gaz on the OPZ. I'm going to try and get that in before NAMM. We're just trying to figure out how to cut it down because it was so long, because there's so much in that little tiny thing. But stay tuned for that as well. But yeah, stay tuned. Sonicstate.com for all your NAMM needs. Will be hopefully first and fastest, which is I think it was something I had to do with fingers. First and fastest sounds like a good tagline for show coverage. But thank you guys. Thank you very much, Mark, for joining us. I hope you have. When are you moving stores then? Have you got a kind of ETA for that?
Beginning of March, hopefully.
Oh, right. So
I'm not going very far. I'm going across the road, but I have a rather nice wall that faces down the high street. So I'm going to paint a huge keyboard on it, and it will make me much easier to find as people walk up the high street. They'll go, oh, look, there's a mural. This is a conservation area. And no doubt it will upset all of the locals, which seems to happen every time anyone paints murals, but I'm doing it anyway. And the shop is bigger. It will have an upstairs as well as a retail section. So upstairs, I'm going to create some very intense sound journeying room, or you could call it sound healing room, but I will also rent that out to teachers who can have sessions in there to teach people guitar or violin or whatever.
Oh, that's a good idea.
But there will also be room upstairs for a workshop and possibly a packing area. So I might go into mail order, and I'm definitely buying a laser cutter, because the amount of things that I make and fiddle around with little files and trying to cut things out and scratch plates for guitars or bits that are missing from things. I just love the idea of chucking something in CAD and pressing a button, and the thing that I normally take 4 hours to make coming out in a puff of smoke, and then I can just, kind of screw holes and all, and then I can just bolt it onto whatever I'm making. So that's where I'm going. More manufacturing, and somebody downstairs working for me being impolite to my customers instead of me.
Excellent. Well, glad to hear that, Mark. I look forward to seeing you again soon. And of course, we also have Matthew Hodson. Thank you for joining us also. As ever, always appreciated. And we look forward to hearing more from you and your music, because you're obviously putting the time in right now.
Yeah, I'm basically got this to patch up now tonight. I've just got some of these, I just mentioned them, these right-handed patch cables by a company called Tendrils, which replace your normal ones, which means
keep it out of the way.
Yeah, it means, because these have got lids, so it means that I can put the lid on these easily without it being unpatched, and carry it around really, really easy, basically. So
you've just had to invest £25,000 in patch cables.
You totally confused me there for a minute.
They are expensive, I must admit. I wish I had time to make them. You said
right-handed when you meant right angle. When you said right-handed, I was thinking, what makes that different to a left-handed one? And I was trying to figure that out. I've got it.
That's the right-handed one, and then that's the left-handed one.
Very good. Hey, thank you very much.
Sorry about that.
I'm here all week. Excellent, Matt. Thank you very much anyway. That's great. And also Mr. Dominic Hawken, who will be struggling through trying to stay awake, doing more relaxation music. I wish you all the best in that.
Thank you very much. I've actually got really expensive patch cables, because they have one of these on one end and one of these on the other.
Wow.
That's really cool. So I normally go output to input.
Okay, really so it's like another visual language thing.
Really clever stuff over here, but you can't put the lid on, obviously. Anyway, have a really good time at NAMM. Try and have some fun, as well as making 90-odd videos and all the rest of it. I hope it goes well.
Thank you.
And what are we going to do for 2 weeks without this?
You'll have to watch the NAMM videos, mate. Anyway, that's it for this time. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you all in a couple of weeks. Take care. Bye-bye now.